America is violent. To start, I'm going to start with a snack. I went to Whole Foods and I got this cupcake. Okay. You guys see the cupcake? Yes. Okay. So this cupcake is really great. Well, I actually don't know if it's going to be that good, but I watched a video tonight that I just agreed with so much. And one thing that I do sometimes is I'll like see something that's great, and instead of actually putting out content about it right when it happens, oh my god, thumbnail. Wow. Instead of putting out content right when it happens, instead I wait a while because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna like unpack this in more depth later, and then the later never comes. Okay. And I just sit around and I'm like, oh yeah, like eventually later, later doesn't come though. So I'm gonna, one thing that I did that I think is a really great idea. So I like to timestamp so I comment on these videos, and then I go back to the comments and then kind of like read what I said at that time to be able to talk about it later. So first, the first comment I wrote was like, everything about this country is violent. Um, I think a lot of you have just never taken an African American history class or really like studied the founding of the country. If you're reading about the founding fathers in like a political science class, they will talk about like white people who came to America from Europe and the UK, and they'll talk about the reasons, we needed America, the Boston Tea Party, right? The Constitution. I think that like Ben Shapiro does a great job of talking about that, right? And all those like book clubs that he offers. But I think it's really important to listen to the other book clubs like Julesy and her book club. Um, to hear about the way that black women have somehow survived through that because it was awful. Like when you talk about like a subhuman experience, listen to old black women. It was subhuman to an extent that you couldn't even like imagine. Um, okay, so then I wrote, these are quotes, things that I heard her say. Exploit yourself for free for me. Oh, she was talking about work. She's basically talking about how you have to go to work every day, for money, and then use the money to live, and then that's basically all you get. And then she said, like, your job is the center of your life, and this is a form of slavery. Yeah. The ruling class, the bourgeoisie, and then whoever the workers are, two different, like, um, classes of people. And if you're just a worker who doesn't own anything, then you do have to kind of like sell your labor to the market. Oh, it's got like a strawberry jelly filling. And if the purpose of college is supposed to be so that you get more skills so that you can get a higher wage and buy more shit in capitalism. And that's true. But when too many people have too much quote unquote education, then mm. And then I wrote, you have no time to seek community, so you don't have the time. I don't know what I meant by that. Oh, this is interesting. Talking about work, she said things happen and kids get sick. Like life is gonna keep happening. Like shit is not always gonna go well. So she was talking about how your employees expect you to like show up on time every day, but like, what if you're like late one day? Like, especially if you work at like Chick-fil-A or something. Like nobody's gonna die if you're late. But on the other side, you could actually be dying, or like your kid could really be sick. And so you should never, like, your kid's health or your own health would and should come before the company, but it doesn't really feel like that's the value system we have in this country. And then she said, taking on the culture around us, I feel like, oh, she said, we take on the culture, the dominant culture around us. And I was thinking when I read that, I feel like this is what black, like rap music and like the manosphere has done to many black men. She actually talks about the manosphere, and I'll go into that for a second at the end of the video, where she says like, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna make comments, unpacking the manosphere um, because all of these people they're just promoting evil, right? And like what they're saying on the internet, most of them don't actually believe in the real world. They're just saying it for clicks and likes and shit. And that's what I've been saying too, which is why I think the only real content creator I found who's like a straight black male is like FD Signifier, who's like actually making content that makes any sense. All of the other content is like literally illogical. Like y'all live in the same world as I do, so now they're trying to promote these like ideals to kind of like to do like social engineering, which it's working on some people, but everyone lives in the. So this is funny, but I'm not gonna wipe it off. So like they're trying to promote some ideas of like we think this and we here's how we feel and shit, and it's like but that like don't get me wrong, because some people I think they really do stand over there in those manosphere quotes and stuff, and they're like this is real for us, and they get other people to buy in, and then they're like okay, now I'm standing in those opinions wherever you stand. And I've been saying this for so long. It's like I feel like I've been screaming it from a mountaintop. Whatever arc you stand on. So if you're on the far right or if you're on the far left, those people are literally a direct contrast to each other. So if you're on the far left, then you know that there's people who exist in society who are directly in opposition to you on every single issue. The people who are in the middle, we call ourselves moderates. Hi, I'm a moderate. Um, we're like a little bit closer right over here. We're like a little bit closer left over here. It just depends on the issue. It depends on the issue, okay? And like especially like being a black woman, so many things are intersectional where on one particular issue you might be like 50-50, and it really just depends on which portion of the issue that you're talking about. I could unpack that more at a later time. And then I quoted something she said: "The system is hard. Having time to think about if this is benefiting me." This was interesting. So she was basically saying like some people are so entwined in the system, and I feel like if you follow the system exactly, like if you go from K through 12 and then you go to college and then you get married and then you commit to a job and then you have kids, things are moving in such a like you're staying on track. Like if this system was working for everyone and everyone was doing that, we wouldn't have any need for the great replacement theory, and we wouldn't be having a conversation about immigration like we are right now. But we actually have to have that conversation right now because so many like millennials, Gen Z are just completely hopping off track. Like they're like skipping college, they're like not getting married, not having kids. Like so now the system's kind of broken because like who's gonna take care of those old people? There's kind of like nobody because people weren't even born to do it. Like who's gonna go if you're not looking at the numbers of the kids in school right now, there's not even enough kids in school to like to fill any quote. There's no quota to fill like all those like every position at every time that's being occupied. So like now you guys see people moving into these spaces of like YouTube, right, where they are literally turning their passions and interests into businesses where they themselves are the product and they themselves are being monetized. So now, in terms of like the capitalist economy, these people are now their own businesses. They don't need to work for anyone else. And they're actually taking marketing dollars away from big ass marketing corporations who have billions and billions of dollars to spend to try to get you to buy shit. But now, instead of going to whoever had decisions before to choose like models or to choose whatever, like nobody's watching that shit anymore. People are watching literal humans like you and me make decisions about everything. Like if you didn't notice, I'm wearing my comfy, and if you go look at Nagad's video earlier tonight, she was also wearing a comfy, and it's a comfy season. So anyway, um, student loans. This was hella funny. This is a direct quote. Student loans, whatever, girl. Y'all not getting that money. It's just, I'm dying. And then she's okay. So then she was talking about something about reality television, right? And how a lot of people are tuned in to watching reality television, and they're kind of like laughing at things and behaviors that some of these women are portraying. Now, you might think this is funny. I don't know. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. The fact is that there are women, men, people in reality TV who are really displaying these behaviors. Cardi B is a great example of this. Um, that they have gone through real trauma to be acting like that, right? I have gone through. Lots of people have gone through real trauma that has caused that behavior. So if you are on the other side of it, just laughing at it as though it's funny, it's not. And these people, like, people live in society. There's only one society. I know some people think, like, no, I am a part of this society and you are a part of that society. And we never cross or mingle. I don't know. I gotta agree. America is violent.